What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today we are back in Spin Tires taking a look at a new mod pack called Operation Overkill. Now, what Operation Overkill is basically a whole mod package that adds a bunch of new modifications to the standard trucks, effectively making them a whole lot more effective with the standard tasks in Spin Tires. Now, the creators of this pack say that they'll be evolving it as it goes on, and there'll be a link in the description box below to where you guys can read about it and to where you guys can download it. And I highly recommend checking it out because it's actually kind of cool. Now, we're going to be trying it out on the river first because the river kind of starts out, you start out with the UAZ and the, the blue truck. I always call it the blue truck. I forget what it's called, but I call it the blue truck all the time. You guys, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But it'll be a good way to demonstrate the modifications for these two vehicles. And then later on, as I demonstrate more and more with this pack, we'll start transitioning into other maps and then other vehicles. And it should be pretty fun. So, go ahead and start a new game. And as we load into the new game, the first thing you notice is the tires, really. Now, I'll just go through the... there, go away. But no, I'll just go through the list of upgrades, at least the new upgrades, to the blue truck. Now, let's see if I can position the camera. That's close enough. Alright, now, let's go ahead and remove the utility attachment. And as you can see, right off the bat, we get bigger wheels and tires because they actually replace the standard media.xml file. So all of the presets are different. It's not like just adding, say, new tires or new vehicles where you're adding something in with the stock game. You're actually manipulating this stock game coding. Now, you've got the default wheels and tires, which, I mean, you can switch back and forth between if you so desire. You've got the Russian off-road, and you've got the mil-spec. Now, the mil-spec, they're kind of cool, but I actually kind of tend to gravitate towards the Russian off-road tires on this truck. Number one, I think they look badass. I think I actually really give the truck a nice stance, but they're also pretty effective and pretty functional. Now, you can have, let's see, real quick. You can go for the fuel cell number 1, which is an interesting idea because if you go ahead and install that, you get a fuel capacity of 450 liters, but you can also upgrade it to another cell with another 450 liters. And so it's effectively, you're carrying around all this extra fuel without having to basically lug around that massive cistern attachment. Now, if you go ahead and install this support package as well, you get repair points and a roll cage. And that's actually okay, I remember what it is now, the ZIL. And the nice thing about this stuff is the fact that it adds a kind of a cool new dimension to the truck while also making it really functional with more fuel, repair points, and just a ton of really cool stuff. Now, before we drive this, we're going to actually move over to the UAZ so I can show you what's new there. And there's not quite as much new with the UAZ. You still got the standard trunk, and you really got only two wheel and tire options. The default ones have changed because, again, the defaults have been changed. And actually, the default ones look really, really good. But you can also switch over to the Russian off-road wheels and tires, and I think they look... It's weird because on the ZIL, they look really, really good. On the UAZ, they look kind of goofy, in my opinion. So I tend to stick with the default ones on the UAZ, and I think those look really, really nice. So we're going to actually go ahead and switch back to the ZIL and go ahead and take it for a quick drive, just so you guys can see how it performs. Now, they've added in all-wheel drive support for this truck as well, which is kind of a nice touch. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and lower that volume just a little bit. But, it's kind of a nice touch because that's one of the major areas that this thing was always lacking in, was all-wheel drive performance, because it didn't have any, it just had rear-wheel drive, and it's not very effective for the situation that this thing has to deal with on a regular basis in Spin Tires. And what they've done with it looks really great, actually. In my opinion, it looks really, really great. It makes it look like an adventure truck that's basically just seen a bunch of crazy stuff, right? It's been on countless adventures. It's been pretty much like all over the world, been through, ridiculous environments, and it's somehow ended up here. It looks like something that, you'd see on a certain British motoring show that we all used to be very, very fond of. And there'll be a full video about that coming very soon. If you guys know, I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I word it that way. But again, we'll have a full vlog coming on that and my opinions on that later on. But and the thing is also, the way they've got this roll cage and bumper laid out looks really high quality and really almost stock game kind of stuff. I mean, the only thing that looks kind of like it couldn't have come straight from the game is these fuel cells, but I mean, honestly, those still look really, really good. They still look plenty close enough to what you'd find in the stock version of spin tires. And let's kick it into high, and actually slows it down. We'll stick it back in auto. But now that we're back in the mud, we might as well stick it in high and see if we can force it through this mud. Doesn't look like that's going to work. Stick it back in auto. Some of the trucks can be a little weird depending on your gearbox settings. They can be temperamental. They can be like, you know, not wanting to go into a certain gear. They can be wanting to hold themselves in one gear. It all depends on the way the truck is geared. And it all depends also on how the modder decided to do it. I mean, some modders prefer like really fast stuff. Some modders really hate fast stuff. I've spoken to both types of modders. I've spoken to some modders that just want their trucks to be as fast as possible. And I've spoken to some modders that that's like the lowest thing on their list is speed. So, again, it all depends on who made that specific performance file. And the nice thing as well is that the way they've modified this truck seriously improves its water fording capability. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. I think there's slightly deep water over here. If only slightly, but still. Not even a warning. Not even a dangerous water level warning. And it was up to the hood. So they've really improved the water fording capabilities of this thing. Let's take it through that one more mud hole, and then we'll switch over to the UAZ. And I'll give you guys a little bit of a performance demonstration and a little bit of a rundown of the features that they've included with the UAZ with this mod upgrade package. Now, they've done a little bit with the Kraz and other trucks. I haven't really tested out the MAZ yet because I don't expect they've done much to it, but I will definitely go back and see. But I think the most notable upgrades were definitely for the ZIL and the UAZ. So, we're going to go ahead and switch to the UAZ now because the UAZ is kind of one of those vehicles that you're almost always going to start out with. Not always, but you're almost always going to start out with one. And to be honest, it's actually one of my favorite vehicles in spin tires. It's just kind of that classic spin tires workhorse vehicle that's just kind of always there, right? It's always there. It's always ready to do whatever kind of map scouting you needed to do, find the crazy cloaking points, and it just works really well. It's one of those vehicles that you always want to have around. You never want to do without one of these. I mean, there are some maps that force you to do without one, and I kind of hate those because they take away such a cool little vehicle. I mean, this thing is like I don't know, it's like that little, it's like a really loyal dog that's always, that's always there for you, always willing to try to do whatever it needs to do. And this thing, it relates to that kind of personality so much. It's got so much personality, this thing. It really, really does. I mean, it's a Russian Jeep is basically what this thing is. And it shows. It shows. It's got the off-road capabilities of a Jeep with, I guess, the determination of a Russian vehicle. And again, with the raised suspension, the new wheels and tires, and the improved traction, this thing just pretty much glides over whatever you want it to. These fallen trees, rocks. It does really well, as actually in mud, too. It slows down a little bit in mud, but nowhere near as much as a stock UAZ would. A stock UAZ, this thing would demolish it. A stock UAZ would be pretty much done compared to this. And actually also, no damage whatsoever going through like saplings and things like that. It just really doesn't even matter to this thing. Even small trees it'll go right over. Now let's see if we can get it out into a little bit more of a road-like environment. And yeah, no, this roof cam, I mean, I saw that in the update that there was like, oh, they're going to add first person. I was like, yeah. And then it was like only a roof cam. And I was like, aw. I was like, oh, come on. Is that the best you could do? But I guess, I mean, I don't know. And personally, sometimes I'm like, meh. And then the other times, like, well, I mean, they tried to put, they put something in. You can't knock them for putting something in, I guess. But at the same time, I wouldn't really drive in this view. I just wouldn't. I mean, I would drive in a cockpit cam, but I wouldn't really drive in a roof cam. Roof cam has never been my thing. The only thing other than, like, third-person cam and cockpit cam that I'll drive in is, like, if I'm playing a simulator, then sometimes I'll drive on bumper cam. Because bumper cam makes you really, really accurate, say if you're racing and you really want to hit your lines perfectly every single time. then bumper cam can be really, really useful because you can see exactly where you're going to hit an apex, for example, but I don't know. Roof cam, nah. Never really been a fan of roof cam, but the list of upgrades to the UAZ are pretty simple compared to the ZIL, but if you guys enjoyed this first look at this mod pack, then don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it, and if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more, because there will be more videos coming of this first beta version of this pack, as well as the revisions later down the road, as well as more Spin Tires videos of coverage from vehicles, or vehicle creators and modders like Spun in Darkness, and I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later.